So how do you pack up all of the things you own and your children and make that transition from one house to another? It's something I see every single day, and today I'm going to talk to you about different points that I think are important when you are moving with young children. So it's a huge mountain to climb, and one that seems somewhat impossible, especially if you have young children at home. But it's something that's obviously necessary. As your family grows, your needs change, and you might need more space in certain areas of your home and less in others. But regardless, if you've outgrown your home and you need to find a new one, it's something that has to be done. You're going to have to move even with young children at home. So I'm going to share some tips today about what I've seen people do or personally done that I've found makes the whole moving process easier. So tip number one, be sure to tell those kids. And in all honesty, the sooner you can get them involved in the process, I have personally found, the better. They like to know what's going on. They can sense if there's some kind of shift coming in the air, and it makes them nervous. So involving them as much as you can early on really improves that buy-in from the children. A few other benefits to telling your children early, in addition to getting them to buy into the process, are smaller things like it allows you to start prepping and decluttering the home, and them knowing that there's a common goal they are all working towards. It also might mean that they don't necessarily tie that decluttering to the move itself and become resentful of the home that you're moving to, because you might not have picked it yet. You can also make fun projects out of this, like is there art on your walls that's not necessary, that you don't need for staging, or china in your cabinets. These are the little things that you can get the kids involved with early on. Start packing those up, boxing them, and getting them out of the way. It'll be much less clutter later on. I also find too that a lot of the time, depending on the age of your children, but when that for sale sign does go up out front of the yard, that's when it becomes really real for the family involved. So having those discussions up ahead, showing them this is what's going to happen, helps them to get through all of those emotions sooner rather than at the last minute when the sign is going up and now showings are beginning. It's also a great way to get them excited for what is to come. I find that telling kids early has a huge impact on their enjoyment of the whole process. If you are telling them, we have to make sure we find a home that has enough room for your trampoline, or we want to make sure that we find a home that has a nice big basement where we can play, getting them excited and on board early on really helps with that whole acceptance of the whole process. And I'm sure you realize this as a parent, but obviously the amount of information you share with different children is age dependent and personality dependent too. So obviously use your own judgment on this, but I have found that the people that share as much as they can that is age appropriate with their children have always had the better success if they did it earlier on. Tip number two, be prepared for the emotions that come. It's not just the parents that are going through a tough emotional time with all the change, but what children really cling to is a sense of stability. So what you're going to find when you're going through these huge periods of change is that kids might act out. Some days they might be super emotional and upset, but not be able to put words to their emotions. But then the next day they might be super happy. It really is a range and roller coaster of emotion, of happiness and sad, but it's just allowing your children to experience those feelings and being there to support them. Which brings me to tip number three. Having as many routines kept in place as you can as you're going through this whole process really does add that level of stability. So if you always have dinner at a certain time or a same bedtime routine or those sorts of things, even in the process of the move when your house is torn to shreds, having maybe their own bed still ready to sleep in or having dinner at the same time every night, that really helps to give that level of stability to your children. Tip number four, get organized. And there's no such thing as too many lists in my opinion, but here are some other things that you could possibly get organized on early on in the process. You could possibly come up with a meal plan to have some frozen dinners in the freezer on these heavy moving days so that when you're exhausted, all you have to do is pop that lasagna in the oven and it's ready in 30 minutes. Easy peasy. Also plan to have some money set aside for dining out. You're going to find, or at least I know I have personally, that when you are moving, you order a lot more food in than you typically would. Prepare to have a pretty large budget when it comes to ordering food in. Develop a to-do list, not just for yourself, but also for your children. It helps for them to feel involved in the whole entire process if they have a list that they're working through simultaneously with you. And schedule the moving and packing trucks now. What I have been finding is that moving trucks and just logistics through these last few years have been really difficult for people. So I have found that some people said they couldn't book a mover less than 6 weeks out. So honestly, the sooner you can book and have your scheduled pack and move date, if you're hiring professional movers, the better. Also part of this planning, and I know I touched on it a little bit already, is just to start early. Get rid of those things that you know you're not going to need for the next few months, whether they be decorations like we said before, or china that you just pack up and can get out of the way. Less clutter in the house, less clutter in your mind, I say. Tip number 5, be prepared for that first night. So what I mean by this is that a lot of the time what people do is they pack stuff into boxes and it's all shipped off, and then they get to their new home and they don't know where their toothbrush is or where their bedding is or any of that. So I personally say pack an overnight bag for everybody, have a change of clothes ready, have your toothbrushes ready, have a book for the kids and their favorite teddy ready to go when you get to the new house. Which also brings me to point number 6. When you are unpacking, I would say the first thing you want to really focus on unpacking is those beds. What you're going to find is that after a long day of unpacking, even if you have your bed set up, all of a sudden you can't find your bedding or your pillow or your child's teddy bear. Unpack those beds, make that a priority, get those set up, because at the end of this day, you are going to be absolutely exhausted, and when you want to go to bed, you're just going to want to lay your head down and crash, and the rest of it can be figured out tomorrow, but you need that bed to get through the night. Another point to the beds too is I find it does add to that level of stability for the children too. So they see their bedding, they see their favorite pillow, they see their favorite teddy if that's their thing, and it gives that stability of knowing that this is going to be their home, it's familiar, it's comfortable. Tip number 8. And I think this is a great opportunity, but get your kids really involved on the decluttering process itself. Have piles for give, donate, or even sell. And yes, sell. Like, this can be fun for your children. You can let them sell their toys and get that money put towards something new for their new homes. Say they want to get a cool slide for the backyard or something like that. You can let them get really excited about helping you both declutter on one side by selling some items, but also collecting that money for something fun for them in the new home to make it their own. It's a real sense of pride for them. There's also ways to gamify this. Give your kids an opportunity to pick their favorite 5 stuffies that they're going to take. Learn about giving and what that means for others. There's some great books and resources out there about the power of giving for children that really will help them get on board with this process. Just reach out and I can give you those recommendations. Just a word of wise as you're collecting these donate items is don't let your pile get too big. I know this sounds really obvious, but if you have a garbage bag full of things that should be leaving your house, just dump that. Don't wait until it gets bigger because you only want to make one trip. What you're going to find is it's so much easier if you just get rid of things as you go, and then the kids are much less likely to go into these bags and dig out the toys that they have now maybe cooled about giving. It's good to just get out of sight, out of mind, declutter that brain again, get that out of your house. Tip number 9, and it is kind of something we've covered upon already with the donate, but just be prepared to purge and to purge over time. In Winnipeg, we have those bins, so you can only get rid of so much garbage at a time, but just plan to put out a little bit of garbage every week so that you don't have this huge dump at the end to get rid of. And also just know too that when it comes to the movers, they charge by the weight. It's not by the size of the truck you're renting. They often are charging by weight. So there are some things that it's just not worth moving because it costs more to move than the item itself. So just be really wary of purging and getting down to really the bare essentials as you're moving. moving. Tip number 10, prepare for some kid-free time. Nap times are a dream, and usually it's a solid couple hours that parents will pack up and get everything together, because a lot of the stuff that we are packing up has to be done out of the sight of children for various reasons, or especially if you're purging, I guess, too. But also have some dedicated babysitting times that you can have someone come and you have a solid 5-6 hours, say, to pack. Also, on the day of the actual move, babysitters are paramount, especially if you're moving to another house within the same city. There's no reason for the kids to be around. It would be an absolute disaster. So if you do have those options, be sure to reach out and get a babysitter. If you are new to Winnipeg and looking for a babysitter, be sure to reach out to me. I actually know a service that is really good and has a bunch of nannies that can be called out on pretty short notice and are all properly vetted. It's run by a former student that I know, so reach out. Tip number 11, take pictures of your old home. What you're going to find is there will be some point where the house is emptying, but I would say get some pictures of the house before it's empty. I would say it's not a bad idea to walk through and do a video either. It does help in the event that something were to go wrong on closing, but I'm saying this more for the purposes of memories. It's really nice to see how old the kids were when they were running through the kitchen and just that stage in your life. It's really nice to go back and revisit it. A lot of people say, oh, I wish I would have taken a picture of this at my old home once they're moving into a new home. I find that comes up a lot. So just be sure to take lots of pictures, lots of video of yourselves before you start the moving process. Even during and after, I find those empty house videos too really endearing, with the kids running around the kitchen island and there just being nothing else within the home. And do it at your new place too. It's a great memory there too. Closing of one door, opening of another. Great to capture that on film. Tip number 12, stay upbeat. I know this sounds easy, but it's not. You're exhausted. You've been packing for days. You don't know where your Sharpie marker went 2 days ago and you're scrounging. You haven't eaten a proper meal, etc. Still, we need to put on a brave face, stay upbeat. Kids really feed off of our emotions. So if you start getting upset about the move, they're gonna get upset about the move too. This is a fun adventure. We can't wait to move into the new house. This is gonna be so much fun. And then when the kids go to bed, just have yourself a little cry and a glass of wine and it'll all be okay, I promise. Tip number 13, the labeler is your best friend. And I don't mean you need an actual labeler to label every single box. Writing on multiple sides of the box is also a good idea, just so that you know what's in each box. Another tip would be to take a picture of each box, open it up, take a picture, and if you have that ready, just smack it on the side of the box so you know what the contents are. It'll save you from digging through it later on. Another tip that was given to me by a client, and I think this is ingenious, is you know how now you can get duct tape in all colors, all patterns even. I think there's like a cheetah pattern I've seen. What they told me they did in their move is they packed up their kitchen and they used yellow duct tape to seal all of those boxes. For the primary bedroom, it was all blue. For the basement, it was all this. So that when everything was coming into the new home, they knew exactly which box should go where. And it was easy to see because this tape is on multiple sides. So you don't necessarily have to look around because the tape is almost always easy to see because it's covering different parts of the box. So bonus points if you buy duct tape in multiple colors and know which room each goes for. I would highly recommend. Also, if you are really, really, really good at planning and you can make an itemized list of what's in each box, kudos to you. I've found though, in the craziness that becomes moving, that this often starts strong and then people kind of trail off on the end. So a nice, easy, as you go process is that duct tape trick. Tip number 14, have a random parts box or a couple, as many as it takes, but what you're going to find when you move into your new home is you can't find your TV remote, or you can't find the little legs that screw on to this little coffee table you had, or just kind of random cords, perhaps like a power bar. You're gonna find that you just can't find all these items. I always say have a little random parts box where you keep all these random parts, keep it near the front of the moving truck or even in your car as you travel, because that's going to be the box that will drive you the most crazy when you can't find it. Tip number 15, try to time your move if you can. It's not always possible for personal reasons, job reasons, etc. But if you can try and move your children during the summer months when they've already kind of closed a season at school, they've said goodbye to their friends, or before that new school starts, I should say, that's the ideal. It's hard enough for them to transition into a new home. If they're having to transition into a new school that's always in progress, I do find that is harder for children. So whenever you can, try and transition in those summer months, but obviously it's not always possible, and kudos to you if you're doing it at another time. I just find it a little bit more difficult then. And tip number 16 is kind of something we've already touched upon, but it's really just, again, making sure that you get your children as involved and on board throughout the process. So here's some additional ideas for you. So show them on a map where their current home is and where their new home will be. Let them look at the map and figure out things that are around it that are fun that you could do to explore. Perhaps there's a park just down the street. Perhaps there's somewhere fun that they could go get ice cream, right? Make it fun, give them some interactive options that they can kind of explore to learn about their new neighborhood. Another fun one I find is letting them pick paint colors for their new bedroom. Let them be their own little interior designers. Get them excited for that process. Let them know that they're going to have a place within this new home that they can call their own and decorate their own. If you can, take them for a tour of the new home. This isn't always possible, especially during COVID, but if you can get the kids to look through the home before you actually move there, it really helps them in envisioning themselves there. Second best alternative, you could show them pictures or video tours just so they can get a feel for what the home is like. Another idea is to just let them draw on the boxes as they're being packed. So if they're packing up belongings from their own room, ask them to color the box so that they can identify it when they get to the new home. It really helps them feel like they're involved in the process, and bonus, it actually keeps them busy for a little bit too. And that's kind of it for my tips, at least off the top of my head. If there's anything you feel that I've missed, be sure to leave it in the comment section below. I really want to make sure that we are making this as easy as it can possibly be for parents and their children when they're moving. I know that our team, we have a little moving booklet that we give out to children when we're first meeting with them that allows them to go through the process and kind of have some interactive activities and gets them on board. So not just their parents are signing paperwork, but they have some paperwork too to sign to say, we will help keep our rooms clean through the process, and kind of just gets them in the right headspace to begin with. There's also some really great moving books too. I can include links in the resources below if you're looking for those. There's a couple that I think were really good, so I will include those in the link below. But again, I'm Jennifer Queen with the Jennifer Queen team and Remax Professionals. I hope you found value in this video today. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. It really does help me determine what kind of videos to film moving forward. And if you enjoy the content or just want general content on moving to Winnipeg or what Winnipeg real estate is really like, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We're coming up with new content every week. Thanks and have a great day, guys.